Hello and namaskar, dear friend, to another inspiring journey into the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. Today we explore chapter 13 titled Kshetra Kshetrangna Vibhaga Yoga, or the yoga of distinction between the field and the knower of the field. This chapter dives deep into understanding who we truly are, the relationship between the body and the soul, and how this understanding leads to liberation. It is a profound guide to self-awareness and connecting with the divine, where Arjuna, curious and reflective, asks Krishna a profound question: what is the field, or Kshetra, and who is the knower of the field, or Kshetrangna? What is true knowledge, and how can one realize liberation? This question touches the core of human existence. What is the nature of our body and soul, and how can we rise beyond the struggle of the material world? Krishna responds with unparalleled clarity. Number 1, the field, the Kshetra. Krishna began by explaining the concept of the field, which represents the material body and the external world. This field includes everything we perceive and interact with, forming the basis of our physical existence. It encompasses the 5 physical elements: earth, water, fire, air, and the space, which from the building block of the body and the material service, the mind, intellect, and ego. These are the subtle components of the field. The mind processes emotion and thought, the intellect discerns and makes decisions, and the ego creates a sense of identity or individuality. Emotion and experiences. Krishna explained that desire, anger, fear, pain, and joy are also the part of field. These arise from interaction with the material world and create attachment and aversions, which bind us to the cycle of birth and death. Krishna emphasized that understanding the field is the first step toward self-realization. It allows us to see the transient nature of the physical body and external experiences, and shift our focus toward the external soul. Number 2, the knower of the field. The knower of the field is the soul, the eternal consequences within every being. Krishna explained that the soul is distinct from the body and it is the observer of all experiences within the field. The individual knower. This refers to the soul present in each individual. The soul is eternal, unchanging, and separate from the material body, which is temporary and ever-changing. The supreme knower, or Paramatma. Beyond the individual soul, Krishna introduced the concept of Paramatma, or the supreme soul, which resides in every being as the ultimate observer. The supreme soul is omnipresent, eternal, and untainted by the material world. By recognizing the presence of the knower within ourselves and the supreme knower in all being, we begin to see the unity of all creation. Krishna emphasized that this realization is the essence of true knowledge. Number 3 is true knowledge. Krishna defined true knowledge not all intellectual or academic understanding, but it as set of virtue and attitude that elevate our consciousness. These qualities help us rise above material attachment and focus on the eternal soul. Key qualities include our humility. Letting go of pride and arrogance, humility arises from recognizing that our existence depends on a higher power. Non-violence, living with the compassion and refraining from causing harm to others, is tough, word or deed. Detachment, developing freedom from material craving and attachment. Detachment does not mean renouncing the world but remaining unaffected by its ups and downs. Self-control, mastering the sense and the mind so they do not dominate our thought and action. Seeking truth, constantly striving to understand the eternal nature of the soul and the Supreme Soul. Krishna emphasized that cultivating these virtues shifts our focus from the material to the spiritual, helping us transient to the limitation of the body and realize the eternal soul. Number 4 is the Supreme Soul, Param Atma. Krishna described the Supreme Soul as the ultimate reality that pervades all creation, unlike the individual soul, which is confined to a single body. The Supreme Soul is present everywhere and in everything. Key attributes of the Supreme Soul include eternal and unchanging. The Supreme Soul exists beyond time, unaffected by birth, death, or the change of the material world. Unmanifest and infinite. Though the Supreme Soul cannot be perceived by the senses, it is the source of all creation and the essence of all existence. The ultimate source. Krishna explained that everything in the universe organized by the Supreme Soul with the sustain and guides all being. Realizing the presence of Supreme Soul within oneself and all other is the path to liberation. It frees us from material attachment and unites us with the divine. Number 5 is Prakriti and Purusa, matter and spirit. Krishna conclude by explaining the relationship between material nature and spirit. This interplay governs the functioning of the universe and the experience of life. Prakriti, matter or nature, refer to the material world and its element, including the body, mind, and all physical action. Prakriti is dynamic and constantly changing, driven by the 3 gunas, qualities, goodness, and ignorance. Sattva, Raja, Tamaha. Purusa refer to a conscious observer, the soul, while Prakriti is responsible for all action in the material world. Purusa remain a silent witness, experiencing but not participating in those actions. Krishna explained that liberation arises when one understands this relationship by detaching from Prakriti and identifying with the Purusa. We transcend the limitation of the material world and realize our true nature as eternal consciousness. This chapter provides a philosophical framework from understanding the body, soul, and the Supreme Soul. It teaches us distinguish between the temporary and the eternal, the material and the spiritual. By cultivating true knowledge and realizing the presence of the Supreme Soul within us, we can achieve liberation and live a life of peace and purpose. Dear friend, now let's bring this wisdom into modern world. We live in the time where people are consumed by their external realities like chasing professional success, accumulating material wealth, and perfecting their physical image. But despite achieving material success, many still feel empty inside. Why? Because they have been focusing only on the field, their physical and external life, while neglecting the knower of the field or their soul. Let me share a story to bring this to life. There was a man named Rahul who worked as an IT professional. He had a high-paying job, a beautiful house, and a luxurious lifestyle. Yet, he felt restless and disconnected. One day, his father, who lived in a small village, visited him. His father noticed Rahul stressed and asked, "Son, when was the last time you sat in a silence and just listened to your heart?" Rahul replied, "I don't have a time for such thing. Life is too busy." His father smiled and handed him a small mirror. "Look into this," he said, "and tell him, what do you see?" Rahul looked at it and said, "I see myself." The father replied, "You see only the reflection of your face, not the reflection of your soul. When you stop and turn inward, you will discover who you really are." This simple conversation changed Rahul's perspective. He began meditating, practicing gratitude, and connecting with his inner self. Slowly, he found a peace not in his possessions, but in his awareness of divine within him. This story of Rahul mirrors Krishna's teaching in chapter 13. Life is not just about managing the external field, but recognizing nurturing the eternal knower within us. When we turn inward, practice humility, and connect with the divine presence, we discover true peace and joy. In the end, Krishna reminds us the Supreme Soul resides within each of us, guiding us toward liberation. When we rise above the distraction of the material world and focus on the eternal truth, we unlock the deeper purpose of life. Let's reflect on this wisdom and strive to live with awareness of the divine within us. Thank you for listening, and may the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita bring light to your path. Namaskar.